ーシングスピリット R インテグラタイプ R ホンダベルの
Welcome back everyone to Myton Films. Today we're talking about the JDM, Honda, and USDM Acura Integra Type R and which one you should buy in 2023. Now before I start this video, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, click a like on the video so many people can see this video, because I want all of you guys to know the differences between the JDM and USDM Integra Type R so people don't make the wrong decision when buying their next car. So with that said, let's get on with the video. Starting things off with the USDM Integra Type R, the years it was available was from 1997 all the way to 2001. However, they did take a break in 1999. So if you do happen to stumble across a car on the internet that is a 1999 Acura Integra Type R, chances are it's probably fake and you should probably report them. Moving on to the production numbers, we have 3,823 models made. No more, no less. Why there was such a small amount made, I don't know. Maybe they ran out of money. Who knows? But that's all we got in America, unfortunately. So with that said, well, that's probably why, the prices are so high. And next we're going to talk about the engine. So the B18C5 puts out a whopping 195 horsepower with a compression ratio of 10.6 to 1, which I'll talk about later on in the video when we talk about the JDM Integra Type R. But this was a pretty big deal back in the 90s. For its era, it was a pretty big deal, and I think it is worth noting. Now, moving on to the transmission, we have a 4.4 final drive Integra Type R transmission, which also came with the LSD. We all know this, right? I'm just spewing the same facts over and over again. However, the USDM Integra Type R only came with one variant of the Type R quote-unquote transmission, and that was the 4.4 final drive transmission. Now, depending on which USDM Integra Type R you got, the weight slightly changes a little bit. So from what I've been able to gather online, the weight can range anywhere from 2,595 pounds all the way up to 2,639 pounds. Now, moving on to the pros and cons of buying a USDM Integra Type R. Let's start with the pros, because the pros are always the good things, right? Alright, let's start with the pros. Okay, pro number one. Well, it's a left-hand drive car in a left-hand drive country. You don't have to worry about driving the opposite side of the car, and that causes its own problems with just regular daily driving. The next point I want to talk about is the bigger impact beams. Now in America, we got bigger impact beams, most likely because we drive a lot faster. Here in Japan, the fastest speed limit that you will be able to find is about 100 kilometers per hour, which is only about 60 miles an hour. Whereas in America, you can see speeds up to 70 or even maybe 75 miles per hour. The next pro to buying USDM Integra Type R is that airbags are in every single model. Now again, this is another safety thing, and I think it needs to be talked about because these are some old cars, and if you do get in an accident, it's gonna suck if you don't have this. So airbags in all models, from the 97 all the way to 2001, every single model has an airbag and a passenger airbag, which I think was amazing to add in. But when it comes time to talk about, a quote-unquote race car on the street, you would assume that it wouldn't have these types of features, right? Well, wrong. And the last pro I want to talk about the USDM Integra Type R is that all parts are available in the United States. You don't have to worry about outsourcing from another country. You don't have to worry about parts being discontinued, even though many of the Integra Type R parts nowadays are starting to become discontinued. But if Honda or Acura decides to remanufacture these parts, that would be great, because many of these parts are starting to become really difficult to find. Alright, with the pros out of the way, let's talk about the cons, because there is quite a few with the USDM Integra Type R. Number one, a low quantity of these cars were made. Like I said before, there was only 3,823 models ever made. That's 3,000, almost 4,000 cars only. This car is 20 years old. How many do you actually think are still alive? How many are not race cars? That is not enough for an entire population. It's not, unfortunately. And it's kind of unfortunate that we only got this many, but that's why the price is the way it is. The next con I want to talk about is it wasn't really as optional as the JDM Integra Type R. So we only got one transmission. That leads into the next point, which is we got whack LS seats. Literally, in the Integra Type R in America, the seats are literally the same as any other Integra. It just has different upholstery. It just has different colors. Wow. Ooh, red stitching. Ooh, sporty. Like, no, this is whack. Like, I can't believe Acura did us dirty like that. That was real dirty. Next, we have a standard Integra wheel. Again, this talks about like the minimal features that Acura provided us with these premium cars. Acura provided us with these premium cars, but inside they just did not even try and just gave us literally like the bottom of the barrel for steering wheels and seats. And like, come on, like really? Like, I don't know why they did this like that. That wraps up the USDM Integra Type R. If you still want to buy a USDM Integra Type R, good luck finding one. I'm going to switch over now to the JDM Integra Type R.
Type R X debut.
Let's get into the interesting stuff. Let's talk about the JDM Integra Type R. Alright, starting things off with the years it was available. The JDM Integra Type R was available from 1995 all the way to 2002. That's right, you heard me right, 2002. In 2001, 25 units were produced. However, we don't know, we can't confirm whether or not these cars were for the consumers or for private companies, but on paper it was specifically stated that 25 cars were sold in 2001, and one car in particular was only sold in 2002. However, we again can't confirm where this car went or who it was sold to. So for the purposes of this video, let's just change that to 1995 to 2000. So the production numbers are way different than the USDM Integra Type R. The production numbers of the JDM Integra Type R was 29,995 cars ever made. That's more than 7 times the amount we got back in North America. That's crazy. Now the engine, the V18C, again is basically the same engine. However, there was a slight difference that Honda made as opposed to what Acura did. So Honda actually used a different piston inside of the V18C in Japan, and because of this, it yielded slightly higher horsepower. Now, it also changed the compression ratio. So the horsepower output in Japan was about 200 PS, which basically converts to about 197 horsepower. Yeah, I know, 2 ponies, right? Great. And on top of that, the compression ratio was no longer 10.6 to 1, it was 11.1 to 1. Now let's talk about the transmission again. So the transmission, we still have the 4.4 final drive transmission that was offered in the 95 to 97 specs of Integras, but once 98 came around, they decided to revamp the transmission and basically make tweaks on the car as necessary, such as adding bigger brakes and doing a whole nother abundance of things like making the wheels bigger. But we got 2 transmissions. So we have a 4.4 final drive transmission and a 4.785 transmission. So in Japan, we got the 4.4 final drive transmission and the 4.785 final drive transmission in the 98 Plus models. Now, these transmissions actually differed just a little slightly. So first, second, and third gear are all the same. However, fourth and fifth gear are the gears that are slightly different, as well as the final drive. Next, we're going to talk about the weight. So the weight differs slightly of that from the USDM Integra Type R. So the JDM Integra Type R weighed in at about 1,060 kilograms, and I'll put the conversion up on the screen for you. And the 98 Spec Plus models weighed in at about 1,080 kilograms. Again, I'm going to put it up on screen for you. So far, it looks like the JDM Integra Type R is pretty much blowing the USDM Integra Type R out of the water. So you would think, why do people want to buy the USDM Integra Type R so much? That's a great question. To be honest, I really don't know, but we'll talk about that at the end of this video. So let's get on with the pros and cons. Again, we're going to start with the pros. So the pros of the JDM Integra Type R are that it is a lighter car. It is much lighter. We're saving about 100 to 200 pounds, and that is a substantial amount of weight in just the same car. So the next pro for the JDM Integra Type R is that it has an optional trans, optional seat colors, optional brakes, optional steering wheels. It has so many options. So you can pretty much choose basically whatever you want depending on what model you got. And the last pro I want to talk about is the large quantity that was made. There was 24,860 DC2s made in Japan, and 5,000 units were DB8 4-door Integra Type R. So now let's talk about the cons. So you must import it or buy from an importer. Now granted, there are some in the United States and North America right now that you can get JDM Integra Type Rs, but you're most likely going to be paying a premium for it as opposed to just importing it yourself. So this is just one con that I wanted to mention. Next is that the chassis is much more dangerous than that of the USDM Integra Type R. Again, this car was not made for the United States market. It is a true JDM car, whereas the Acura Integra Type R was not a JDM car, it's a USDM car. So with that being said, if you get into an accident, your life might suck a lot more if you are in a JDM Integra Type R as opposed to an Integra Type R, because well, the impact beams and the airbags are not there to save you. And the last point I want to talk about, and probably the most severe, is that some parts are just not available in the United States for the JDM Integra Type R. Now you may be saying to yourself, well, it's an Integra Type R, right? So I can just buy everything from a USDM Integra Type R and put it on a JDM Integra Type R, right? And unfortunately, that's not the case. So to give you guys some examples, the rear brakes on the 96 Integra Type R, the 96 spec, yeah, you can't buy those really anywhere here in America. Trust me, I tried searching for them. That's why I didn't buy them for my car when I had a 96 spec in America. So I just never changed them, and I just let the next owner kind of handle that. The next thing, the interior pieces are not compatible. So if you try to mate them together, like a right-hand drive, center console, and a left-hand drive car, it's not going to work. So let me just save you some time and money. Yeah, don't do that, all right? So that's something also to think about. And last, the front end. The front end, yeah, it's from Japan. It's not from America. So many of the front ends were kind of imported here, sadly, and chopped up, and they were imported here. So now people have them on their stock Integras. So it's a lot harder, I think, to find these front end clips. And if you need just one piece, like a fender or a hood, you're most likely going to have to import it all the way from Japan. All right, so that wraps up my comparison of the USDM and JDM Integra Type R. To be honest, I think it's pretty silly to buy a USDM Integra Type R. If you want my honest opinion, it's more or less just a collector's piece at this point. It's not really a car I would ever consider buying, simply because you could just buy something much better for much cheaper. You can literally get any type of variation out of Japan from the JDM version as opposed to the USDM version, which was much more strict and much more bland. So that's where I'm going to cut the video today. Thank you all for tuning in. I will see you in the next one.